Please adhere to YouTube's selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals.
Alright, so today I'm going to be smoking a cigarette, but there's a giant pile of sand right behind me. I'll admit, the giant pile of sand right behind me is mildly ominous, because I don't know why it's there. I don't know what it's there for. For all I know, the sand that's right behind me is some mysterious creature that just looks like a pile of sand. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a pile of sand that was put there because some sand was dug up and they needed to put the sand somewhere. I don't know the true reason for why the sand behind me is right there, right now, on video, right now. But what I do know is that it's there nonetheless, and what I do know is that I want to smoke a cigarette while there is a giant pile of sand behind me. As such, that is exactly what I'm doing today. Overall, am I looking forward to this experience? I'd have to say I most certainly am, because today I want to smoke a cigarette. It's been about 10 minutes since the last cigarette I had, and let me tell y'all what, I want another. As such, I do suppose without further ado, I should probably go ahead and get my pack of Panama duty-free American Spirit Blue cigarettes all opened up, and I should probably go ahead and get one of the cigarettes within this pack all out, and I should probably go ahead and actually get to smoking a cigarette with a giant pile of sand right behind me. Now, shouldn't I? And there's a little bit of a gnat in my face right now. Let's try to get that gnat away from me, and let's go ahead and pull the paper all out just like that. Not the cleanest pull out by any means, could have been better, but hey, you know, it is what it is. It ain't no biggie by any means. As long as I have my cigarettes fully undamaged, I am happy, and these do appear to be fully undamaged. Let's go ahead and get one of these cigarettes all out of the pack. Not two of them, just one of them. And let's go and close my pack back up and put that in my pocket and get my lighter out of my pocket now as well, if I possibly can. And there we go, just like my pack of the Panama duty-free American Spirit Blues that I have with me today. My lighter is indeed blue as well. And without further ado, let's go ahead and light this cigarette right here with my blue lighter, and let's go ahead and get to smoking a cigarette with a giant pile of sand behind me right now. It's looking kind of ominous, I'm not gonna lie. It's looking kind of ominous, but I hope it doesn't get up and try to eat me alive during this video or anything like that kind of thing. That would be kind of scary, I will admit. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get to smoking. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? And overall, you know, I gotta admit, so far, so good. This is, so far, a pretty solid experience if I do say so myself. I'm standing here in the middle of a gravel parking lot that is currently closed off to traffic with a giant pile of sand right behind me. Not really too much going on with the giant pile of sand. Looks like there's a couple pipes poking through it for some reason as well. I'm hazarding a guess that maybe they're doing some construction near here or something like that kind of thing. And maybe that sand is from like culverts or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not a sand expert. I'm not a culvert expert. I'm not a civil engineering expert or anything like that. So I don't know the real purpose for why this sand is here, but I do know that it's here. And I do know that I'm very glad to be smoking a cigarette with it right behind me right now, because I mean, like, I gotta admit, it's kind of nice to just look at, honestly. I mean, like, it's just a pile of sand, but this pile of sand, it has some areas that are obviously loose, some areas that are obviously hard, and it just makes you wonder about kind of the weather and everything like that kind of thing. It's like, why are some areas of the sand kind of more loose and they look a little bit more moist, and other areas look a little bit harder, like they've been there for longer, even though they're higher up on the pile? It is kind of interesting to think about I do suppose, what's the right way of putting this? I do suppose it's kind of interesting to think about the structural integrity of sand in a pile circumstance. I do suppose is maybe the right way of putting it. I feel like there's a better way of putting that, but it's interesting to think about how sand settles, and I think this pile is a good visualization of how sand settles. Like, obviously it was dropped off by some sort of excavator or some sort of dump truck or something like that kind of thing, but then how it slides down and settles, and we can see people's footprints on it as well, kind of thing, where people have run up and run down, and it just looks like a dune in the middle of a grassy field. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. Trying to think what the right wordage is. I guess structural integrity of sand as a pile is a good way of putting it. Probably not the best way of putting it. I was about to say like thermodynamics and settlement of sand in a grass field setting, and I think that's another way of putting it, but thermodynamics, I don't know. But I guess thermodynamics, you could say, is there to some degree. Because while sand as a thing is extremely small, between each grain of sand, there is an air gap. And so within the sand pile, there's still air flowing in and out of it. Maybe very slowly, but there's air flowing in and out of it nonetheless. The outside temperature out here right now is like about 90 degrees, I would say. But within the center of that pile of sand, it's probably a lot cooler just because there's so much less airflow. And maybe it's drier as well because all of the moisture from the sand has gotten out. Or maybe it's really humid in the middle of the pile of sand right behind me because maybe the humidity, the moisture inside the sand pile can't get out. After all, it does make sense that the outside of the sand pile would dry faster than the inside because there's just that much less material that the air has to flow through, kind of thing. The thermodynamics of sand. Now that is something I've never thought about before. But I think it's a worthwhile topic of discussion, especially when it comes to beach creation and erosion kind of thing. Because when you're thinking about making a beach, if your beach has eroded away due to tide, due to time, due to climate change, no matter the case, if you're trying to create a beach, the thermodynamics and structural stability of sand as an object itself is extremely important to consider. Because if you make a beach and then 2 weeks later it's already gone, what was the point of making that beach? Just for 2 weeks? That was a waste of money, manpower, everything like that. So you have to think about the different types of sand. You have to think about how you want to pack down the sand. You have to think about, okay, do we want a concrete layer below the sand if we're making a beach kind of thing? There's so many different things to think about when it comes to sand now that I really think about it. Like, sand is just an object, but there's so many different use cases for sand. Beaches, glass, you can use sand to make sandcastles. There's a lot of different uses for sand, and so the more I think about it, the more I think the thermodynamics of sand is an interesting topic. Very interesting. Very interesting. And I can say with confidence that I am very glad to be smoking a cigarette with a pile of sand behind me right now. Because if I wasn't having this experience, I would have just driven by this pile of sand and been like, yeah, it's a pile of sand kind of thing. But now that I'm here with the pile of sand behind me, and that is one of the topics of this video today, I'm thinking about the pile of sand a little bit more. I'm going into depth about the details of the pile of sand, talking about the thermodynamics of the pile of sand behind me right now. This is a much more intriguing pile of sand than one might think. And if you really think about it, isn't every pile of sand much more intriguing than you really would think it would be at a glance? Because every pile of sand is a pile of sand that has its own structural integrity. There's different types of sand. There's sand, and then there's like saltwater sand and freshwater sand, and there's Sahara sand, and there's really fine sand, and there's really coarse sand, and all of them have different purposes. Very interesting. You know, as somebody who smokes a lot of cigarettes, I think about cigarettes a lot. But cigarettes are a topic that a lot of people do not think about a lot. And you know, I kind of understand sand enthusiasts now. I'm getting my words jumbled up. Now, personally, when it comes to like walking on sand, I'm not really the biggest fan. It's really fine, it's really gritty, it gets everywhere kind of thing. I'm not really the biggest fan of sand, I'll admit, just as something to walk on, unless it's on a beautiful beach. Then I can deal with the sand, I'll acknowledge. You know, a beautiful beach is a beautiful beach, but just like a pile of sand in like a playground or something like that kind of thing. You know, when I was a kid, it wasn't really my thing kind of thing. I would much rather just stay on the concrete or on the grass or something like that kind of thing, just because I didn't want to get sand all in my shoes and all over my legs and everything like that kind of thing. But sand, it's a topic I don't really think about all that much. But it's a topic that is very interesting, and it's a topic that I'm very glad that I'm talking about today. Where was I going with this originally? I was talking about how a lot of people don't think about cigarettes a lot, but I, as a person, think about cigarettes a lot because it's what I do for a living. I'm a professional cigarette smoker, alcohol drinker, and poetry writer. So I think about cigarettes and alcohol a lot, along with poems a lot as well, of course. I think about that sort of stuff a lot, but sand is not one of the things I think about a lot. But if you're a civil engineer, or if you're somebody who makes beaches for a living, sand is something you think about a lot. It's all about perspective. It's all about perspective and thinking about things. And that's kind of what's going on with the pile of sand behind me right now. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. This is, at a glance, just a video about smoking a cigarette with a pile of sand in the background. I'm like, that's what the title of this video is. So at a glance, that's what this video is. But the truth of the matter is that this pile of sand is so much more than just a pile of sand. On one hand, yes, it's a pile of sand. But on the other hand, it's a pile of sand that means a lot more to some people than it does to others. Very interesting. And I just realized I've gotten so wrapped up in talking about sand and the giant pile of sand behind me that I've completely forgotten to grab a thumbnail for the video. Can you all believe me? I can definitely believe me. But the goal of today's video was to smoke one singular cigarette with a pile of sand behind me, so I can't have another one right now. But hopefully one of the frames during this video will do as a thumbnail. We will find out. And I'm gonna go and stub this out real quick because I'm just about done with my cigarette. All out, no complaints. One other thing I forgot to mention is that I have my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, out and available now. How could I forget to thank the sponsor of today's video, which just so happens to be me, because my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, is out and available now. The poems within my book, they're not good poems, but they are good poems to read while smoking cigarettes. And while there are no poems within my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, maybe, just maybe, in the next poetry book, I will have to include a poem about sand. Because I think there's a lot to say about sand. And I think sand is, honestly, pretty interesting, now that I've talked about it so much during this video today. Can I say with confidence that smoking a cigarette next to a pile of sand has been an enjoyable experience? I'd have to say, I certainly can say that. And I'd have to say, I've had a great time today. Make sure, as said, to go check out my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes. It's linked in the description and comments down below. Make sure to go check it out. And of course, make sure to like and subscribe. Think I've said everything I wanted to say for this video today. Appreciate y'all watching. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this pile of sand behind me right here. And until the next one, stay safe and peace, and have a great one.